With more on the return of Parliament, let's bring in Liberal House Leader Mark Holland. Hello, Mr. Holland.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm good. Listen, I want to begin with your reaction to what we just heard from the NDP leader, that essentially your government was doing nothing to address the rising cost of living until the Supply and Confidence Agreement, which will result in dental care, bigger GST rebates for struggling Canadians. What do you say to that assertion?
Well, I think the important thing is we're working together on priorities that are important to Canadians to make life more affordable, and that the agreement that we have, the Supply and Confidence Agreement, is working well. I would obviously take umbrage with the idea that we weren't doing things prior to that. Obviously we were. I mean, I just take as an example the Canada Child Benefit, which helped lift hundreds of thousands of families out of poverty. And the action that we took on child care agreements across the country, many things that we did in the realm of affordability. So there's some theater in that, but outside of the theater, this is a minority government. This is an example of a minority government working. We've been able to work with the NDP on a number of measures that are really essential to help Canadians who are struggling to pay the bills right now. We've got a global circumstance that's very difficult. Inflation caused by coming out of COVID and the war in Ukraine. We're going to be dealing obviously with very serious issues with climate change. So I'm not too vexed about who tries to take credit. As a government, our priority is to get things done for Canadians and find a path to do that.
Well, I don't know if you would consider this theater or not, but you mentioned climate change, and we've also heard from Pierre Poilievre, the new Conservative leader. He's calling on your government to halt any increase on carbon and payroll taxes, really as a means of addressing the high cost of living right now. What do you say to that call from Pierre Poilievre?
Well, look, the reality is the economy and the environment go hand in hand. And I think the view that you can somehow divorce those two things is wrong-headed. The reality is, yes, things are challenging right now for Canadians as they're trying to make ends meet. But what we've done with the price on pollution is to make it more expensive to pollute and then to give that money back to Canadians. And as the Parliamentary Budget Officer has verified, 8 in 10 Canadians are getting more money back than they pay. And secondarily, we can't allow ourselves to go back into the world where pollution is free and where you're free to pollute. The Conservative Party had been supportive in the last election of carbon pricing as the best way for us to be moving forward on tackling the global problem of climate change. And now they've flip-flopped and they have a different position today than they had before. But their unwillingness to acknowledge the climate crisis is baffling. If we don't have a climate, we don't have an economy.
Let me jump in there, though, because, you hear it from Canadians saying they don't understand why you would tax only to send back a rebate when you compare it to what Doug Ford did in Ontario after winning the last provincial election. He did cut the provincial gas tax, and that did have an immediate impact on the amount that people were paying for gas that they use every day in their cars.
Well, the idea here is that if you continue your existing behaviors, yes, you do get money back, and so that you're going to get that money to come back to you, but you are heavily incentivized to make choices that are more environmentally friendly, and so that's what we're trying to do, is drive behavior change here and to incentivize that. The reality is we can't afford pollution to be free. I just said it, and it couldn't be more true, and we're seeing the effects of global climate change all around us. More extreme weather events, enormous cost, both in terms of human life and economic costs in the short term, and catastrophic costs in the medium term. We have an obligation to not only future generations, but frankly this generation, to make sure that we get it right on the environment. And pretending that you can just continue going on polluting however you like with no plan, and thinking that that has no impact on the economy is foolhardy, and not to mention the fact that our global partners, just to finish on this, Michael, our global partners expect us to take action. And if we're going to be sitting down in trade meetings and talking about future trade with other countries when we're neglecting our global responsibility to be part of the solution, you're not going to be heard well at the table.
Okay. Well, listen, let's leave it at that. You and I will speak again, most certainly. For now, thank you for that, Mark Holland.
Thanks so much, Michael.